So the first thing I've been thinking about is I've got 3 big monitors, and my center one is a beast, and it really makes it a lot easier to write the report. I have the report on the center one. I have the internet on the left, and I have all of my phone stuff on the right. And by my phone stuff, I mean the data file that I pull up, and then my phone has the pictures that I pull up. And then as I'm creating the PDF, that pulls up on the right. And then as I'm, and then when I create the file, I've got, that goes to the right. So I definitely use all 3. I think you guys ought to have at least 2. And you can muddle through, but I think it's going to be a lot harder for you if you're just dealing with one monitor. Anyway, so think about that. You're getting permission to buy yourself at least a second monitor, and it needs to be big, especially if you're me and Mark and you've got old man eyes.
I have 2. I don't have 3.
Yeah. So my intention today is the most important part is the executive summary, and that's what we've been working on in the past. But there is plenty going on with the remainder of the report. So my plan was to go through the report once so you can see how that's done. We will be standardizing on my report for a couple of reasons. One is it makes it much easier on the inspector because you're only writing 1 page of those paragraphs that we've been working on. And some of those paragraphs Ryan and I have been working on so that you can actually just copy and paste. So rather than trying to write 5 or 6 high quality paragraphs, you're writing maybe 2 or 3. And that just makes it a lot easier. So anyway, I was going to go through that, but then Ryan mentioned today that one of the reasons he hasn't been using this report is that he doesn't understand the macros. So I figured we'd begin, and we went through the macros, might be a training unto itself, but I figured we'd start there. So you guys have been around the block. Let's say one of you give me an item that commonly happens in an inspection.
You've got a water heater that's leaking or needs to be replaced.
Okay, so you can, and I'm just gonna put actually, let's go down to the water heater category. Water heater, and so that would go under the condition. And I'm going to write in an MD because that's a medium deficiency, or that's what it used to be. Now it's a medium priority. Space, and then you said water heater is leaking and needs to be replaced. Okay, so you guys are, and all of us are working on a phone, which we have to hunt and peck for each of those letters, right? It's not as easy as doing it on a keyboard.
Right.
What if we had a macro that instead of water heater is leaking and needs to be replaced, if we just had, say, WHL, which is water heater and leak, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's do a WHL macro. You're with me thus far?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just changed that to WHL. Now let's go create a macro that changes WHL to water heater is leaking and needs to be replaced. So I'm going to go up here to view, down to macros, view the macros, and I'm going to edit. As you go into this form, you see I've got a number of these macros already. Priority, MCI as may contain asbestos, CNI as could not inspect, etc. And you can find what they all mean as you go down. Here you see an NI turns into not installed. So I'm just going to copy this subroutine, which I've labeled high priority. Actually, I'm going to find one that's a thing all by itself. Let's do this one. This one, I guess. HIM. HI stands for home inspection. M turns M into main. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to copy this whole subroutine. And I'm going to go paste it somewhere. As a matter of fact, I'll paste it right here where we are. I'm going to hit the enter key and I'm just going to paste. So now I have two HIM subroutines. But I'm going to change this one to what we want. I'm going to get rid of that M. I'm going to replace it with, oh, I blew that. Let's see, with water heater is leaking and needs to be replaced. And we decided to call that WHL, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to name this subroutine HI for home inspection WHL, and we're going to have it search. I put that in the wrong place. We're going to have it search for WHL, and where it finds a WHL, it's going to replace with water heater is leaking and needs to be replaced. And you'll notice that I've purposefully placed spaces in front of and behind this phrase. Did I lose you yet?
No.
So yeah, we just basically created a subroutine called HIWHL. And what we said is we're looking for WHL, and where we find it, it's gonna insert that phrase. Okay, so let's save that. Actually, I think I can just get out. So now we've got under the water heater, we've got WHL. It's going to search for that, and when it finds that, it's going to macros. So we're going up to macros, down to convert all. This is the macro that runs all the macros. And it's going to go through and convert everything. And oh, and it didn't do it. And here's why. Because I need to go in and convert all into convert all. Oh, crap. I didn't tell the computer to actually run that macro. I just added it. I'm struggling here with all the stuff that's at the top of my screen. Okay, view macros, and we're gonna view them, and then we're gonna come into convert all and edit that. So this, like I say, this convert all macro basically runs every macro that we've got in here. And so we'll just go to the bottom and say, copy this line, paste it here, and what was it? Water heater leaking?
WHL.
Yeah.
Okay, so now when I run this convert all macro, it's going to run all of these, and then the last macro it's going to run is this WHL. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay, so now I'm going to get out. And if I was just to run that one macro, right here, you would see it change this WHL to water heater is leaking and needs to be replaced. Or if I run, if I run everything again, the macro of all macros, the convert all, then you'll see it does the same thing. When it gets down to it. So that's what all those macros are about. So you don't necessarily have to memorize them all. It'll just make life easier for you if you do.
I have an Excel sheet that I broke them all out that you had, so I could actually give that to people. Then that gives you a quick, easy reference if you want it.
Yeah. But one thing you can do is always just write reports, and then someday when you hit yourself on the head and say, wow, it'd be really nice if there was a macro that was don't spray the house or the window wells, then you can go into the macro editor and create something like that. For me, that's DSW, don't spray the window wells. And I'll show you that one since I brought it up. You see that right here is where it's executed. And then if I were to edit that one, it searches for DSW, and where it sees it, it replaces with don't spray over or into window well. And that's all these macros are. DSH is don't spray the house. The wingdings you don't need to know about. And the ZZ, just, you probably don't need to know about that either, but it causes a couple of tabs in the right places. Then I created one subroutine called compass, and you see that it looks for an N or an E. Let's see, N here, S there, E there, and W. So that turns those letters into north, south, east, and west. And then NHIP is not held in place, that sort of thing. You can go through these, and if they make sense to you, great. If they don't, then you don't have to use them. MCA is may contain asbestos. That being said, that's like I say, you can use those or not, but they're intended to make your life easier. Okay, let's see. I'm going to get rid of this. And what I want to do, I'm pulling up on my right monitor a report that I did a few days ago. This is in Pleasant Grove, and maybe, let's see, I'll start with the pictures because they'll probably give us the best idea of what the more interesting items were, and we'll basically write that report. Okay, so you guys can see the pictures?
No, I can only see, I can't right now.
Oh, all right. Let me see if I can fix that. Share screen. Oh, let's do it this way. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Now I can.
Okay. All right. So you see, and we'll just, I'm not going to go through the whole report. We'll just use the pictures and say that that was the complete report. So you see on the first one, we're just missing a downspout. And on this one, this is just cracking in the slab, not very interesting. Then you go down, you just got, I said it's not pretty, but not a deficiency. I just wanted it prove that I saw it, because at the time I took the picture, the buyer wasn't there, and I didn't want him calling me, 3 days later saying, how could you have missed that corroded light fixture? So, when you don't have the buyer there, you gotta be very defensive and basically prove that you saw everything, whether you thought it was interesting or not. Same thing here with this picture. It's just settlement, but it's not really a deficiency. You can still drive across that. Here you see we've got a rain gutter downspout that drains to the wrong place. They had it right, but they were probably mowing the grass and got it out of the way, and then they never put it back. This one, you've got an active leak. You might be able to see water that's actually on the floor of that cabinet. So I wrote in that we had a leak there. Somebody kicked that door in. The mana block was leaking. This was the water house. You had water everywhere. You had water here, you had water there, and you had water right there. That's actually a flow. I don't know if you can see that, but that pressure valve drain was actually flowing water. And so all this was wet. And there was a potential for that wall to get wet. So eventually, yeah, these guys showed up, and I made it clear to them that they had the water house. I took a picture of this water heater, and again, that's a Bradford White. Mark, you've printed out. Is that what you did with these Bradford Whites? You figured out a way to not have to go to the internet every time to date these water.
Yeah, I have hang on a sec. I can tell you what that is. But I've got it on my phone.
Garrett, you'll want to do this too. Dating the water heater is important, because obviously if it's more than about 8 years old, the client needs to know that it's on borrowed time.
Right.
So that one is, what you do is you go off of the, I can't remember, it's the model number or the serial number. I have to read this. Serial number. First two characters in the serial number. So it says PE. PE would be 1997 or 2017. So he said this is only 4 years old, so 2017. E would mean it was manufactured in
Right.
May.
And then if you look down here, there's an ANSI standard that is 2014. So we know that it's 2017. The ANSI standard is based, I think it stands for American National Standards Institute or something like that. And they basically create the rules for what a water heater has to be.
Yeah.
If you see an ANSI standard, you know it's more recent than that. And then here you see that I just said, if this is a bedroom, lose that lock. Then we got a couple of double taps, one in this picture, one in this picture, and then I just took a picture of the attic that looks okay. They said get the trees away from the foundation. Don't spray the window well. And again, you see this water that drops into this bucket, which, that bucket doesn't exactly hold an infinite amount of water, and then it's going to drain into the window well. This is another part of the water house, this hose bib. They couldn't get it off, so they just cut the hose, and you can see that it's draining. Yeah, that's actually an icicle.
Nice.
Again, drainage toward the window well, for me, that macro is DTW. This here is super ugly, but from my point of view, it is what it is. You wonder if it's going to be maybe a trip risk, but I think the homeowners will figure that out. So with that much information, I want to just go through and do kind of a mock report. Let's see. So now I need to change the screen that I'm sharing, if I can figure out how to do that. Or maybe I'll just move this one over to there. Okay, client name. Garrett, this may be new to you, but somewhere you got to have that client name. I always have my clients text me the address. And the reason for that is that on the date that I'm going there, or when I'm writing the report, I need to know that I have the correct address. So I'll pull up that. And then I've got the address. Now Ryan does a sheet that he prints out, and for me that means you got to know where that sheet is. But this email you're going to want to put 2 in. You're going to want to put the realtor's name and the buyer's name. Now this order number will be unique to you guys. I use CX because my business is Crossroads. Those letters don't mean anything to me. If I was Mark, rather than a CX, I think Mark, you go with an HMA because you're Home Medic Assurity. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
So you would be HMA, and if you do the same method I do, which you probably should, especially to begin with, you start with the year 21, the month 04, and the day is 05. And then if you're doing multiple inspections in a particular day, it would be A or B or C or whatever. So that would be the order number. That way, when somebody says, hey, you know, I need another copy of my report, you can say, okay, what's the order number? And then you know exactly what date it was on, and it should be easy for you to find. Lab samples, pretty easy. You know, if it's meth or mold or radon or whatever, you're going to put that in there. You always got to pay homage to the agent. If the agent feels like they're third rate and you didn't bother to notice them, you won't keep their loyalty. So, John, got to have their name in there. Client present is important because, you know, and we have our clients present almost every time, but there have been cases when somebody calls me up a month later and they say, well, what about that hole in the brick? And I'm like, dude, I don't even remember what state your home is in, let alone whether there's brick or holes or anything. So this box becomes important because I can say, hey, you were there, we talked about it, or I can say, hey, you weren't there. I can only help you as much as you let me help you. And you do that in the gentlest way possible, of course, but it's like, you know, if you're not there for me to explain things to you, then all I can do is try my hardest in the report, and that will never be enough. An inspection type will be, if it's a single family home, then it's single family home, or it would be a condo. Now, if it's a condo or a townhome, then there's going to be a
HOA.
HOA. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Which means, again, if there's an HOA, then you don't have to inspect the exterior. You don't have to inspect the roof. And so if they call you back and say, hey, the roof was leaking, you say, this is an HOA inspection. I don't have to inspect the roof, and it's somebody else's responsibility. Then, of course, the year built is what it is, and the square feet, kind of obvious. Landscaping. This one is important because you know, sometimes if it's rugged landscaping, you sometimes the buyer's not there, and maybe they're expecting the grass to be all in and stuff, and it's not. So you can just put in something like unfinished. Conditions is important because let's say it's December and you've got 6 inches of snow on the roof. Then 3 months later, somebody calls you up and says, hey, the roof is trash. You didn't tell me that. You go back to the report and you say, well, it says that there was snow cover on the roof, so I couldn't inspect it. I was unable. So you avoid getting sued that way, and you keep from getting bad reviews, which is probably even worse than being sued. Utilities, this one is important because if the gas is off, this is gas, water, and power. That means you can't inspect any gas appliance, which is going to be your furnace, your water heater, the stove, etc., which again protects you, because if they call you back 2 weeks later and say, hey, the water heater doesn't work, you can say, yeah, I wasn't able to inspect that. The gas was off. And then again, you got the same order number over here, the year, the month, the day, and then whether it's A, B, or C, depending on how many inspections you did. The other tests, like you did the radon test. That one's pretty common. And then the terms, if you let somebody, if you're writing a report and they haven't paid you, this is the only way that you're going to be able to know and keep track of who hasn't paid you, other than rely on your memory, which gets really hard after a few days have gone by.
So then you've got one more on this that I think we need to have, and that's under engineer somewhere. You need to have, if we're going to be multiple people using it, it needs to say who the inspector was.
Oh, we do need to have that. Oh yeah, that's me, and I've stopped seeing that. So here you would change yours to.
That's what I did.
And yeah, I've seen this form so many times I stopped seeing some boxes, and that's what I'm trying to get you not to do. Okay, so down here at the inspection, I always just copy and paste. And if there's a discount, maybe because this is a condo. And that's important because again, you're letting the buyer know that they're getting a discount because you didn't inspect something, and you will not be held liable for it because you didn't do it, and you're giving them a discount because you didn't do it. So now this number then becomes $350 or whatever you guys do. If it's a $50 discount, then whatever. But that gets you through the first 2 pages. Then
you didn't cover that too. Go back up there to invoice. You've got ship to and ship to address.
You're right. The 2 is the buyer, John Doe.
But we want to know their home address at this point, or all you care about is their name.
No, this just goes to them. I don't need their home address. I
just their email.
How's that?
Just the email. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really about all we have as far as it's kind of an invasion of privacy to ask a buyer what his home address is.
Okay.
Now, in the unusual occurrence where maybe it's a title company that hired you, you've got to tell them how to get you the money. And normally they're just going to give you a card and you can do Square or whatever, but sometimes they must send you a check. So it's in this box. That you put in your home address, or however they're going to get the check to you. This is where you tell them that. I've had a couple of occasions where I didn't fill this in, and I get a frustrated call from them, and they say, we want to send you a check, but you didn't tell us where to send it. So that's where you do that at. Okay. By the way, you see that all these are all caps and this one's not. And you wouldn't want to do that on your report. Okay. So being that I can't share two screens with you, I'm just going to go through these pictures that you've already seen, and we can add them to the report. And maybe I'll just push things back and forth. So the first one and the second one are the missing downspout and then the concrete cracks, right?
Yeah.
So missing downspout, that to me is a minor deficiency or a minor priority. And that would be maybe southeast. And this is one of the advantages of our report versus the one that Garrett, you and Ryan have been using. You don't have to write a good paragraph because this is the data section. All you have to do is some short, quick blurb that says, I saw that.
Gotcha.
And then the concrete cracks will be, and those aren't even a deficiency. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to say XN, which is my macro for, let's make a note. So this is going to say note, concrete cracks. And I'm not even, I'm not using words like the, which would make that a cleaner paragraph or a cleaner sentence. It's not a sentence. It's just, we're very briefly describing what's going on. Okay, now I'm going to drag this screen over to you again. So we've got a corroded light, and that's not a deficiency either. That's aesthetic. So that's another note. Where does that go? Let's put it at the doors section. The idea is that you don't have to be super clear here. If it's important, it'll be in the executive summary and you will have described it to the buyer. So like Mark said once, this is more of a reminder. This doesn't have to be super clear. It's the data section. All right, we'll go to the next one. You got more cracks. We've already documented that. There's some drainage toward the foundation, and then we've got a leaking bathroom sink. So if I'm writing this, I'm going to go to the drainage section, and I'm going to say minor deficiency, and I could write drainage toward the foundation, but I'm lazy, so I'm going to write DTF because I have a macro for that. And I'm going to say in front, but I have a macro for front, so I'm just going to write that in. That means medium deficiency, drainage toward the foundation in front. And then we've got the leaking sink. And I believe that was in the master. That's a medium deficiency. Okay. So you see, this is a fairly easy thing to build. Now this, this damaged door, that was kicked in, and we decided that the buyer decided that that was not a meth head that did that. That was probably somebody that just wanted to get in, or maybe he had an anger problem. So that's just a damaged door. So we're going to go to the doors section. And to me, that's another minor deficiency. In the garage. Okay, then we've got the mana block that's leaking. And you see the corrosion on the top, you see the stuff on the bottom. that's starting to approach a high priority. And you could write that either way if you want, but I think I'm still going to leave that as a medium priority item. And we don't really have anything for the mana block. We do have something for the water main, so maybe we'll put it there. And that's all I have to do there. Y'all still with me, or am I boring you to tears?
No, I'm with you. We're still good.
Okay, so here's the water heater, and that's actually an active leak. So that's a high priority. That, you know, it is draining towards a drain that's right down here, but we could still have mold in this wall, and you know, if any one thing goes wrong, it could get ugly. Maybe the drain stops draining. So that's a high priority issue. So now, as we go to the water heater, what did we decide? That was 2017?
Yeah.
And the capacity was 40. Now, I believe this one also lacked security straps. So I have a macro NI, which turns into not installed. But let's do this one. The condition, let's see, that's the pressure.
WHL.
How's that?
The WHL.
Yeah, the water heater leaks. Only on this one, that there's nothing wrong with that. Let's put that in.
Yeah.
And then I would also perhaps put it here, the pressure valve. The pressure valve flows. And I'm going to change that MD to an SD because that's a high priority. All right, what's next? We've got the water heater dated. We're going to lose the lock on the bedroom door, and then we've got some double taps. Okay, so let's say that it's here. Now that could be a safety issue. I should be more precise in my language, lose the deadbolt. Obviously, if a child gets trapped behind that deadbolt, that's not awesome. And so I'm going to change that cent sign to a dollar sign. And what that does is that runs another macro. The dollar sign is a safety issue. The cent sign is not a safety issue. So you'll see when the macro builds this report, it'll turn this into a safety issue that is a medium priority. And then the attic looks fine when we've got trees that need to be eliminated. And then drainage toward the window wells. So trees and the drainage. Here's the trees right here. Actually, I shouldn't have the attitude. Remove the trees near the home. And then we got drainage toward the window well. Now I have a macro for that. That's DTW, drainage toward the window well. And then I should probably say all around. It's not just one window well. Let's see, we've got the icicle. We got more drainage toward the window well. And that's just a curiosity. I'm not even going to write that in. So to finish up, we just say your hose bib leaks and has a stuck hose on it. So we're going to go up here. The water pressure is whatever it is. That's something you got to fill in. That'll be 70 psi maybe. And back B, that's a macro. Hose bib leaks and still has the hose. Okay, so that is the data section on this report. I'm going to go up to view.
You didn't do the electrical, right?
Oh, you're right. We didn't do the double taps. So And I don't like to do high priority stuff unless, you know, there's a probability that it's going to burn the house down, because I like to have the high priority stuff stand out. You know, you don't want to necessarily have 10 high priority items. If there's one, you want it to be, you know, you want it to be the gorilla in the room. So I don't like to do high priority any more than I have to. All right, now let's do the macro. And we're going to go to convert all and run that. First thing I notice is I didn't put how many amps there are, so we'll say that was 100, and then we'll go back up and look at this report. We're kind of giving this a once over before we send it. Again, it's important that you try to do perfection, because you know, everybody's going to miss something, but if you miss 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 items, then you're an idiot and you just lost a lot of business. So as we go down through this, you see that this driveway kind of ends on its own page. That's good. As you come down here, you see the family room is on 2 different pages. And so I just like to do a control enter and I'll push that all onto the next page. Maybe it's meaningless, but I like to do it. I think it's just better. And then I'm going to do the same thing with that bedroom. And I'm going to do the same thing with that bedroom. And you see that the stairways, you just got other down here. One way to do that is to kill it right here. Another is, you see we got the same thing where the other overflows onto the next page. Another way to do it is to kill it there. And then you see there's 2 spaces here. That's, you know, that's something that we can fix. And it looks like we didn't get the tonnage put in. So we'll say that's 3 tons. Now, if you see that, that is a wingding font that I've just put up with for a billion years. So you just have to play with it. And go to a different place and see if you can get it to behave a little better. So again, this one has, this one belongs on this page. So I'm going to kill this other line here and bring that up. Now we got the 2 high priority items, which are the same thing. Water heater is leaking, needs to be replaced. And down here it just says flows. And then you've got the mana block that leaks. So, and then again, this needs to be brought to the rest of its tribe. And now this is all on one page, all of this extra stuff at the bottom. So this X, when you see it, that's intended to be a target. That is where your pictures go. Do I have any pictures on my phone? Let's see. All right, I swept them all off. I'm going to take a couple of pictures and we'll put them on. Okay, let's put some pictures on. Now this is going to be a little bit difficult for me because normally I do this with a couple of screens. I'm going to try and do this all on one. So like I say, that X is a target. It needs to go away after you're done with target practice. So I've got 3 pictures that I put on. I actually, you see how I placed my cursor there, and just to be sure, you know, I pushed it down one. I am going to sweep those pictures over into here. Now, sometimes it does that. It actually did a new page. So I'm just going to hit the delete key once, and here they are. So here's some pictures, and I'm just inserting some space between the pictures. And I'm going to say, don't spray the window well. And clean out the toilet.
You know, whenever I get to that point, I always get to where I can't put any typing in between there. What did you do specifically to get that?
To get what?
How did you move the
Space?
picture down?
I think you're asking how was I able to sweep the pictures into that spot?
Well, no, I know how you got the pictures there. The question I've got is when they were all together, what keystrokes did you use to move the pictures down?
Oh, I did Control Enter. So I'm going to go back. So these just got swept into here. So I'm going to put the cursor on the lower right-hand corner of the first picture.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit Control Enter a few times. Or let's see, an Enter key just does it.
Just put enter on.
Say that again.
I say you're just using the enter key, not control enter.
You know, usually I'll do Control Enter, and now I forget why.
All right, but you're just saying you put that cursor at the bottom of that first picture and you can do that. So that makes sense.
Okay, so what I did is I pushed some space down below this picture, and then this is just a word thing. Now it says, all right, if you don't want it next to that picture, then I'm going to put it next to this one. So then you got to come down to this one, and I'm going to hit the Enter key. And then sometimes it'll go back up. Yeah, I don't know why, but Control Enter just seems to behave a little better. I don't know why.
Okay.
And then you come down here and you see that X. You got to get rid of that X. The purpose for that X is no longer there because we've already swept the pictures over. And then Mark said that this page doesn't work for you guys. If so, then do what you got to do. Maybe you lose the background picture, whatever you.
It actually worked when I downloaded it. It didn't work on the internet, but when I downloaded it, it was fine.
Okay. So now we have a completed report. And what I will do then is to save that. And again, that's going to be, for me, that's going to be CX, the year, the month, and the day. And let's say it's my second inspection. And then I'm going to save it as a PDF. And then it gives me this PDF that it's created. Now, when I go to, I'm going to struggle again a little because now I'm normally working on monitors 1 and 3. But if I go to my inspections folder, it put this one right here. This is the Word file, this is the PDF. And I'm actually going to sweep Let's see if I can do this on one monitor. I'm going to sweep this PDF over into my files. Okay, and here it is. This is now on my Google Drive, and all I have to do is share it with whoever. joe@joe.com. And whoever this is going to get an email. Thanks for your business. Now, the nice thing about doing it this way, rather than sending him the file directly, is if I go in and I think, oh crap, I need to change something. This guy's not John Realtor, he's Joe Realtor. Now I can quickly save this again. I can save it as a PDF. And then I can go in and say, oh my gosh, the updated file, I'm going to sweep that over again. And now if Joe hasn't opened up the first file, then he'll never know that I made a mistake.
That's really nice.
Say that again?
So that's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. There's been times when I sent somebody 4 different files because I saw that I missed something on the invoice, or I screwed something up, and then they asked me a question and I sent them another file, and yeah, this is better. Okay, that is everything I had in mind for today. You guys have any questions?
No, it's once you get the whole system down, yeah, it's a lot simple. Unlike Ryan's report, yeah, is a little different, more yeah, he goes into detail here and there, but yeah.
So, and then I also have a habit of, once I have written a report, I don't want to have to remember which pictures go with yesterday versus today. So I'll always delete right after I write the report. I'll delete all the pictures off my phone. It is considerably simpler. Ryan says he did get one person complain. I've never had anybody complain about my report. And even though it is much simpler, I think the fact, buyers just want to know if their home is good. And I think it can be frustrating if you've got an 80-page report, especially if there's no executive summary. It's like, you mean I got to read 80 pages to find out what the problems are? And our executive summary is always one page and no more. And it's that one executive summary where he and the realtor can go to say, all right, these are the big issues. This is what we need to focus on as we move forward. This is what we need to negotiate about. It's all on one page. And I think it provides a better service to the home buyer.
Okay, question. If you decide to do one, or you have one, because I've seen a couple of these lately where you end up doing a duplex, how do you format that report when you're doing the duplex? So that, do you do it as 2 separate reports, one for each, or do you do it and then add, and then just copy and copy everything over and make the other? Because they share the exterior, they share the main power, but they don't share everything.
So this is me being lazy, but I'll say this is like 746 and 748 Fred Street. And And then as I go down here, if it's a duplex, then it's shared. So you don't have to duplicate things down there, but down here I would go interior 746 and then, you know, copy whatever. And then I'd do an interior 748. That's one way to do it. It seems a little cleaner, and then it's still one report. But if you decide to do two reports, there's nothing wrong with that. Say that again.
Okay. I see. Yeah, that's what I've done. I just wondered if that was specifically how you would do it.
Yeah, and then of course you'd have to come down here to where? To the major systems. You'd have major systems 746 and 748. But yeah, that's how I've done it. Partly just because I'm lazy, and partly because it's one report, and that's probably a little simpler for them.
I was going to mention one thing. When I've been talking to one of the realtors that I've been talking to, and we ought to talk about this, with the water heater thing, if you put in the verbiage that we wrote with that water heater leaks needs to be replaced, if you put that in, their home warranty won't cover it. If you put in water heaters leaks, but is providing hot water, you know, you have to decide what would you be putting on that one specifically. Did you say that they needed to replace it, the one we looked at, or did you say it's leaking? And how do you want to handle that particular part of it? Because that's something that's going to be an issue more and more, because you don't have the buyers, you don't have the sellers giving any concessions anymore. So the buyers have to decide. And if the buyer buys a house that has a water heater that's leaking, such as you had, what are we going to tell them about it? What's our specific we're going to write in the report?
So I think the guiding principles are you still got to be honest. You got to protect the client, and you got to protect yourself.
But you don't know that water heater needed to be replaced. That's a supposition, right?
That is true. So yeah, I like where you're going. You don't, I mean, if it's leaking, obviously it needs to be replaced. But maybe you just say the water heater is leaking, or maybe you just say the water heater is in this condition, and then you stop short of saying it needs to be replaced. Even if
that's what the guy that had the home warranty told me, and that's what the realtor said. Just put, you know, don't you make the decision that it needs to be replaced. Tell us the condition, whether or not it's providing hot water, you know, how much water is leaking, if you see a lot of it, if there's a lot of extra rust, you know. But if you specifically say that has to be done, then you put in the verbiage where they won't do anything for those people. It doesn't mean you can't talk to them, but you just have to be careful what you say. That's where I've run into an issue in the last couple of people I've talked to. I just wondered.
And so in the category of maybe let's say it's the roof, you could say the roof is heavily damaged and leaking, but you can still stop short of saying it needs to be replaced. I think that's clear anyway.
Well, that's true. However, home inspector, this is something I found very interesting. There's a home warranty guy called me up. They don't replace roofs. They would replace a water heater as long as you didn't say it had to be replaced. If you deem whatever it is totally defective, they won't help you with it. If you put it as this is what I've seen, and don't specifically in your report say that,
right?
You know, then we're still leaving them the option. But as soon as we put in there, now sometimes they need to be replaced, and sometimes you're going to say that, and whether they like it or not, they have to.
I'm thinking, you know, where we're maybe going with this is a philosophical thing that could help. Maybe we avoid making judgments. Maybe we avoid saying that something needs to be replaced ever. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in Ryan's report, just after he covers all the issues, he just puts like water heater is leaking. The inspector recommends that it be looked at by a professional or replaced. So the verbiage is this is the condition, but you might want to have it replaced or looked at by a professional technician. So,
Right. Yeah. So
yeah, that's why he uses.
maybe a structural failure on a deck, you know, where it's poorly built, or a leaking roof or whatever. We can say it's leaking. We can make it a high priority if we want, but if we stop short of saying it needs to be replaced, or actually if we stop short of making a judgment on exactly what needs to happen, you know, we can talk about whether that serves the client, and I don't think I have an answer to that right now.
Well, it's like, for instance, I was thinking about it when you were going through this report of yours. You had that lock on the door. To me, until you added the comment, well, if the child gets in there and locks it, that's the problem you want to have. To me, I was thinking, well, what's the problem with that? I like that on there. I might want to have, but if I have kids, so it would depend on the people you're selling to. You'd have to ask some questions before you just said, take this away, right?
Right. Yeah, so a person, rather than say lose the lock, you could say this lock may be unsafe for children.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, that I think we need to think about that and talk about that a lot more. That I like that level of precision, because it does give them the information they need without necessarily making the decision for them. I kind of like that. You guys noodle on that till the next time we talk.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
See you later.
Yep.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.